Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's Simply Soccer podcast. So we got a few things for you today, some questions to get through, and a few announcements as well. So the announcements first. The Instagram contest is now up. So if you have not gotten yourself into that, if you've not entered, you might want to get on there because we have 5 prizes to give away, some posters, some balls, and with each ball, I'm going to be including a drill sheet of obviously drills that you can do with the ball in order to improve your ball control, dribbling, and so on. So that's definitely something you'll want to at least be entered in for a chance to win. And it's simple. Just go over to Instagram at SimplySoccer Pro. You can go to Instagram/SimplySoccer Pro, or simply go to the link in the description down below, and you can look at the picture that says contest, and you can read the description of the picture, which will tell you exactly how to enter. All you really have to do is like the picture, make sure you're following me on Instagram, and tag a friend or something like that. So make sure you read it, get yourself entered in that, because I would hate for you to miss out. I will be announcing the winners probably either next week or the week after. If I have enough contestants by next week, we will be releasing the winners next week, and you could be one of them. So make sure you take a look at that. Also, an update on the course. It is coming out a bit later than I wanted. I'm still kind of coordinating it with the website I did it for, because a few of you have emailed me and asked me a few questions about that. So it is finished, the actual recording part, editing part, and the course is, as far as editing and recording goes, is complete. We're just waiting to kind of organize it, get it up on the website completely, and everything else. And I will be making a promo video. In fact, I'm pretty much done the promo video, and I will release that on the channel so you can get a little glimpse of what it's all about and the benefits of taking it. Okay, so those are the main announcements. Let's get right into the bulk of this podcast and see what questions we have today. So we got a few, some good questions here. I think there might be a repeat in here. I'm not sure, but I'm going to answer it anyway. But let's get right into it. And the first one is how to play with Flair. There was a little more to this question, but I think the main question was essentially how to play with Flair. And it's a very good question, honestly, because not enough players play with Flair. Not enough players play with kind of like a fire in their belly, so to speak. And all Flair really is think of it as like someone who actually expresses themselves on the field. Most skillful players, when I think of a Flair player, I think of players like Mahrez or Payet, of obviously Messi and Ronaldo, but they're a whole different level. I think of even like Hatem Ben Arfa, players like that. These are players with Flair. They do the unexpected. They're not players who do just the ordinary. They have a certain pizzazz about them, a certain spark. So how to play with Flair it's something you have to work at, like anything. But yes, you can learn to play with Flair. You have to start training your brain to think of the unexpected to do in certain situations. Because this is kind of the makeup of an average or normal player. The average or normal player will get the ball, simply pick out a teammate, pass it off, move somewhere else. Get the ball, pick out a teammate, pass it off, move somewhere else, and keep going. And there isn't much wrong with that, because you do need to do that for a lot of the game. You need to play simple and effective. But the problem is, these same players, they don't do anything else. They're very predictable. They'll get the ball, maybe pass it across or backwards, sometimes forward if you're lucky, and then they'll just get open for the ball again and do the same thing. And it's really not going anywhere. And I think in one of the previous podcasts, I mentioned how it annoys me how a lot of players just don't take the game by the scruff of the neck, go at the defense, drive at them, and make things happen. There are very few, especially at youth level, I found players who make things happen. That's why whenever you go to a game and you watch a game, whenever a player goes and beats someone one-on-one with like a step over or an elastico or a Maradona, or, beats 2 players and curls one in the corner, people, are like, whoa, how crazy was that? The fact that it's considered crazy is disappointing to me, because I really wish more players would do that. And it is something you can train to do. It's not something that, that player must be naturally gifted. Flair is something you can develop. If you can do a step over well, if you can do other moves well, then we just have to kind of get you to the point where you can do them in certain situations and be able to time them to get you to be beating players one-on-one, to get you to be doing more Flair-like things. So definitely skill moves is something you can start doing a little more to add a little more flair to your game. Think of, in a lot of my videos, I go over how, if you guys watch the Players to Watch series that's on the channel usually every weekend, usually on Saturday, you'll notice that a lot of the players I cover, I mention are unpredictable. Unpredictability is, in this case, a synonym for flair. I mean, in reality, they're not, but in this case, they are. Basically meaning the same thing. If you are unpredictable, you're probably a very good flair player, and vice versa. If you are unpredictable, you're that player that a defender doesn't know what's going to happen. You have that level of flair to where a defender gets worried when you get the ball. Have you ever seen or watched a professional match when a certain player is just having a crazy good game and you can just tell the defender is just so nervous because he's diving in or he's just making, mistakes without anything happening? That's because that player is a flair player, and they are some of the hardest players to defend because you don't know what they're going to do. You have no idea because they could, just play simple. They could pass it off like they're required to do sometimes, or you never know. They might turn you, beat another player one-on-one, and whip in a really good cross. Or they might turn a player, beat someone one-on-one, and then rifle a shot into the corner. So how to play with flair is simply stop doing... stop playing safe is what I should really say. Now, I'm a little hesitant to say, I'm trying to really get across the message that you should play simple a lot. A lot of the game, you're going to be forced to play simple. You're going to have a man on your back or two men around you, and you're going to have to pass it back, or you're going to have to pass it back to whoever passed it to you, or you're going to have to shield it, or something of this nature. But if you watch these flair players, they pick their opportunities to really have a go. And if you lose the ball in the opposition's 18-yard box, that's okay. That's not that big of a deal. It's not like you're losing the ball near your 18-yard box. You can start to take risks in your opponent's final third, okay? So if you really want to play with more flair, start doing things a little differently. Don't always do the simple. Don't force the issue, and this is what I'm talking about. Like, don't misinterpret what I'm saying. Don't force things. Don't try and beat 6 players one-on-one. Don't try and just do things that you shouldn't be doing. But if you have a chance to beat someone one-on-one, don't be one of those players who has a direct opportunity to beat someone one-on-one and then turns around and passes it back. Be that player that drives at him. Beat him with a move. And even if you don't beat him, it's okay. It's okay? You can get it the next time, and you've really shown that you are going to be dangerous because maybe next time you'll play it back, or maybe next time you'll take him on again. Maybe you'll try a different move. You never know. Defenders are not worried about players who get the ball, they close them down, and then they just turn around and pass it back. That is a defender's dream. They do not care about those players. I mean, they care about those players, but they're not worried about that player beating them one-on-one. They're scared of the players that run at them. They're scared of the players that try things, the flicks and the moves and shooting. And, they're afraid of these players. You ever seen, and this is a really good example of this, you ever seen like a really good, like a Suarez or Messi go to shoot the ball and every single defender like hits the floor? Or there's a huge example when Mahrez, I don't know if he was playing Chelsea or Aston Villa, or I forget who he was playing, but he went, or West Ham, I think it was. He went to shoot the ball, and 3 defenders went to ground to try and block his shot. That's how you know you're a flair player, because they're so worried you're going to score from shooting that they're willing to take the risk of just throwing their body on the floor just to prevent you from shooting. You'll see other players try and do this, and people will read them like a book, and they'll know they're not going to shoot because they're not worried about them scoring from 20, 30, 40, not 40 yards, but 20 or 30 yards. So you'll notice this when Messi goes to shoot or Suarez goes to shoot. One of the moves they use the most is the chop, because the defenders are afraid when they actually go to fake or go to shoot or go to cross. They're so afraid that they're willing to take the risk of going to ground just in case they are. So that was a very long-winded explanation of what flair is. But to kind of summarize, make sure you're learning skill moves. I mean, we kind of went over this in another podcast, but I don't mind reiterating because this is a very important topic to me. But, have some skill moves that you're really good at. Run at players. If you're a winger especially, you please run at players. If you're a striker or an attacking player, run at players. Make things happen. Make the defenders sweat. Make them hate you. Make them hate your existence in that match, because that means they're nervous. And I can tell you, defenders hate Flair players. They hate the players that can beat them one-on-one. They hate the players that drive at them. They hate the players that shoot from distance well. They hate the players that can score from 25 yards out. They hate the players that can finish almost every time they're in front of goal. And you can learn to do this, okay? You just need to practice. But it also is a mindset, because I've known some very skillful players who absolutely refuse to take a man one-on-one in matches or shoot because they're too scared of losing the ball, or they don't think, that they'll be able to do it. And they'll do it occasionally, but not often, or often enough. And so don't be that player, because chances are you're listening to this, and I bet a lot of you listening to this are already pretty accomplished players, which means you could be a Flair player. It's very much a mindset as much as it is about your physical attributes. You need to kind of switch your mindset to thinking, what are my options? And you need to think of it so quickly. What are my options? I can either pass back, I can run at this guy, I can shoot. And you need to occasionally, or more than occasionally, choose the riskier, unpredictable one, okay? If you watch the best players in the world, they do this all the time. They're always beating players one-on-one. They're always shooting from 20, 25 yards. They're always threading in that sneaky little through ball. Now, they're not doing it every single time. I mean, even if you watch Messi, he will make sure he retains possession sometimes, but he does it more than other players. And Ronaldo does it, and Alexis Sanchez does it, and Mahrez does it, and that's why they're the players that the fans love. That's why they get, are so valuable to their team. Okay, so we spent a lot of time on that one. And I can't remember everything I said, so I'm hoping the information I gave you was on point and I didn't forget anything. But let's move on. And the next one is, how do I improve decision making? Again, another one I think we've gone over a little bit, but it's actually perfect, a perfect follow-up question to how to play with Flair. Because with decision making, especially if you're a Flair player, you have to make the decision on whether you're going to play it simple or try something a little more, risky. And I definitely encourage you to take risks in matches, especially in your opponent's final third. Don't take any in your final third, but in your opposition's defensive third, take some bloody risks, because even if you lose the ball, it's not a big deal. But, high risk, high reward. You take the risk and you end up beating the player, and now you have a chance to cross in a great ball. So something of that nature. Okay, so how do I improve my decision making? Now, this is a big one. Again, we're talking more about a mindset. This isn't a physical thing. The reason most players make poor decisions in certain situations isn't because of their ability, or that they have bad ball control, or they have bad passing, or whatever it may be. It's more down to they get nervous. They don't have that calmness or presence in order to, really just see things clearly, that they panic and usually lose the ball. They get up inside their head. And we definitely talked about this, because I remember discussing how to be calm it might have been the last podcast, but I don't really remember. So it's fine to reopen this topic. But you need to start relaxing. Not relaxing in the sense of relaxing your body so that you aren't, alert to what's going on around you, but relaxing your mind, relaxing your thoughts to the point where you are crystal clear on what you need to do, and you can also change what you need to do right away. Because if you're nervous and you're worrying about possibly losing the ball, if you're worrying about the worst case scenario, you're more likely to have that worst case scenario actually play itself out. Have you ever received a pass and in your head thought, crap, what happened? What if I lose this? What should I do? Whatever. And then actually have lost the ball? How many more times have you lost the ball or done something silly than actually done something good? Probably more times you've done something silly or done something bad or made a mistake. And this isn't down to you having bad ability. It's just that you got nervous, and therefore your decision-making became poor. You're not going to make good decisions when you're nervous. And this is, again, another correlation with just life here. This is not only true for soccer, this is true for life. If you're nervous, you tend not to make good decisions. You need to be confident. You need to believe in your ability. You need to know that when you're going to receive the ball, you're going to control it perfectly. You're going to do exactly what you were envisioning, and it's going to come off. And even if it doesn't, then you just get it the next time. That's like every professional deals very well with mistakes and learns from them. They don't dwell on them. Do not dwell on your mistakes. If you become a player who can learn to learn, if you can become a player who becomes accustomed to learning from their mistakes, you will go very far in this sport. So the way I would, to really summarize this one, improve your decision making, is just calm down, relax. Don't think too much, because it's when you overthink these situations that it really screws you up. If you've ever taken a penalty kick in a very important match, and I have myself, and so I can actually, I'll tell this story. In my freshman year of college for my university, I won us a penalty against the number one team in the nation. We played them twice that season, once in regulation, in the regular season, and once in the final of our playoffs. But it was the regular season game. The score was 0-0. Remember, this team was number one in the nation. These were no scrubs. These were guys who were really good. If our school had beaten them, it would have been one of the biggest upsets in collegiate soccer that year, or for a very long time. I won us a penalty. I was taking the penalty, and I got inside my head. I started overthinking it. I started thinking of which way I should go. I started thinking, no, let's go this way or this way. I said, oh, what's the keeper thinking, blah, blah, blah. When in reality, I should have stepped up, placed the ball down, thought to myself, this is where I'm putting it, and put it there. Not complicated, not making myself nervous, very calm and composed. But what I did is I thought, maybe I should go this way. And I changed it. And I also got nervous. I started, wondering what would happen if I missed. I started letting the occasion get to me. And what happened? I shot the ball. It careened back off the post. And then I touched it again, which counts as a double touch. And therefore, Messiah, which was the college we were playing, got a free kick. And guess what? What made it even worse is they won 1-0. And remember, it was 0-0 when I took the penalty. They won in about, the last 5 minutes. They scored a goal, and I was devastated. And it really taught me a lesson on you can't be nervous when you go up to take a penalty, because I've taken many penalties in my life, and I've scored most of them. But because I let the nervousness take me over, because it made my decision-making really bad. It made me change my decision. It made me not confident in my ability to do something that I had done hundreds of times before perfectly. So I've kind of gone off from decision-making to nervousness and all that. But if you want to make better decisions, you need to work on not becoming nervous in pressure situations, okay? So you need to just remain calm. Even if you lose the ball, even if you make a mistake, you will make mistakes. Watch a professional match. You'll see the best players in the world making mistakes all the time. Maybe not all the time, but sometimes, okay? And just watch what they do. They brush it off, and they get... You think when Messi loses... There's been times when Messi has tried to dribble through someone, lost the ball, the other team's countered and scored. Do you think he lets that affect him? No, he probably says, okay, that wasn't good, but I'm going to now get it back. I'm going to play well from this point on, and I'm going to make up for it. He doesn't overthink it. He doesn't get nervous. He just gets on with it. And that's what you need to do when you're making a decision. Make your decision. You can certainly change that decision, but you need to be confident in your decision. If you're nervous about your decision, if you're unconfident in your decision, if you're doubting your ability, this is important too. If you're doubting your ability in the moment that you're about to make a decision or you're about to do a move or something, then most likely you're going to not do it properly. It's very hard. So make sure you have confidence in your ability. I know I mentioned when playing with Flair, every time... Oh, actually, sorry, I just got something mixed up. This was a comment I made to someone. But I told someone actually recently who asked me, how do I score more goals? I get a lot of chances. How do I score more? And one of my best pieces of advice on that is you have to believe every single opportunity you're going to score. And you have to truly believe it in every fiber of your body. Now, of course, what you're saying isn't mathematically correct. You're not going to score every single chance. But the more you believe it, the more chance you'll have, because you'll have the confidence to do so. So you'll get a chance and you'll go, well, I'm scoring this. You'll stick with your decision. You go up, I'm scoring this. I'm going near post, done deal. And you'll be more likely to score because you believe it so much, because you've made your decision and you're sticking with it, and because you're confident in yourself in that moment. Where if you get nervous, you keep changing your decision and you keep having this lack of belief in your ability, well then what do you think the result's going to be? Okay, so we're going to move on to the next one. Wow, we spent like a good 10 minutes, a little less, maybe 9 or 8 minutes on each of those topics. So let's get on to the next one. Next question, good question by the way, is how to make your feet faster for dribbling, skill moves, and the like. Another good one, and in fact, I'm actually planning on a few videos and actually a few products based on this concept, based on this skill, simply because I think it's a very important skill. I think the faster your feet, the better. And when I say fast feet, I mean with doing moves. I don't mean like you need to be You do need good agility, but I'm talking about your ability to manipulate the ball quickly, if that makes sense. So the best way, I'm trying to think of some drills that I'm going to include in some of the products I want to release, but because there are a few. But remember, for some of those of you who haven't watched some of my older videos, a lot of what I talk about in my older videos is the concept of muscle memory. The concept of the more you do something or move in a certain way, or perform a certain action, the more your body becomes used to it, and you develop what's called muscle memory. So, for example, with ball control, the more you practice controlling the ball, the more muscle memory you have for controlling the ball in a certain way. So like if you only control the ball with the inside of your foot, you'll become really good at it, but your outside the foot won't magically be any better. It'll just be the same. But because you use the inside of your foot so much, you have developed muscle memory with that, and therefore your body knows what to do almost immediately. It's automatic. It's almost like it's almost a habit. It's almost like an instinct at that point. So to make your feet faster, we have to go through the same process. One of the drills I always recommend from players, and you guys are probably tired of me recommending it, is the Ronaldo box. This is such a great drill for getting your feet faster. And do you know why I call it the Ronaldo box? Because Ronaldo does this drill. So who is probably the player with the fastest feet in the world right now? And if he isn't right now, in his prime, Cristiano Ronaldo. So the name of that drill, the Ronaldo box, should really tell you all you need to know. And for those of you who doubt the effectiveness of this drill, just give it a try. Try it every day for a week or every day for 2 weeks and see how much faster your feet become. See how much better your close ball control becomes. Because in all honesty, even if you have fast feet, if you can't control the ball when dribbling, it doesn't really matter. Okay. So also another thing to go with kind of repetition, muscle memory, and all this consistency to get your feet faster. You mentioned skill moves. I think the person who asked this question, if you want to get better at a skill move, you need to practice it over and over again. I mean, this is pretty, self-explanatory. But for example, one of my favorite moves is the step over. You want to know how I got good at the step over and why it's one of my favorite moves and why I use it in almost every match I play in? I use it at least once. Simply because I would go out every day and I would practice it over and over again. And I would not only practice it over and over again, I would try and do it faster and faster each and every time. That's another thing. If you do something at the same speed every time, you're going to get really good at it, but doing it at that speed. So if you want to develop faster feet, you need to try and do it faster each time. It's like with juggling. If you just go to 50 each time, you're going to get pretty good at getting to 50, but you need to go beyond that. There needs to be a point where you challenge yourself. I mean, if we want to relate this to something else, if we relate it to like lifting, if you lift the same amount of weight over and over again, weeks, months, years, you'll probably get pretty toned, but you're not going to put on much bulk. You're not going to put on much more muscle because you've gotten good at lifting that weight. But then if you go to lift much heavier weight, it's not really going to work. So you need to develop these skills and your fast feet through doing it often. Now, another thing I also really recommend for developing fast feet is doing some ladder drills, and I will give you a link in the description of some ladder drills you can do. Just 3 little drills you can do that I have found are some of the best for improving your feet and making them quick. But I do recommend you do ball work while trying to improve the quickness of your feet, because when it comes down to it, your feet can be super fast, but if you can't keep up with dribbling the ball with your feet being that fast, it's not going to work because you won't be able to control the ball. So you need to be getting used to controlling the ball with fast feet. That's why I recommend the Ronaldo box, because it's perfect for that. And now the Ronaldo box, the reason I think a lot of players don't like it is because you make a lot of mistakes in this drill. It's inevitable that you're going to make mistakes when doing this drill, and that can be very frustrating. But just stick at it, and you'll see massive improvements. It's one of my favorite drills for quick feet. And I just can't really, gush about it anymore and really, sing its praises anymore. You just kind of have to do it. I will leave a link in the description to that drill. Okay, so I have one more question here. What drills to improve your weak foot? Well, again, we have about 5 minutes, so I can spend 5 minutes on this. This is this is a question that I've answered many times, not on a podcast, so fair enough, we'll answer it here. But guys, the answer, the answer, in all honesty. How did you get good with your dominant foot? You used it all the time. See, I'm hoping whoever asked this question, and I don't think you are, I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm hoping that you didn't ask me this expecting some magic bullet, silver bullet, magical drill that's just going to make your weak foot good. No, it's not how it works. Your weak foot's going to get better in the same way your dominant foot got better. You're going to have to use it. There's no other way around it. I mean, there are certain drills you can do that might improve it quicker, but the fact of the matter is, if you have a pretty weak foot right now, it is going to be a frustrating journey, but it's definitely worth it. Do not think for a moment that you shouldn't improve your weak foot, because another thing that really, is a pet peeve of mine when I'm watching players, even coaches who are coaching players, is there's not enough emphasis on developing your weaker foot. I don't believe you need to develop your weaker foot to the point where it's as good as your dominant foot, because you want to make your dominant foot really good. You want to improve upon your strengths. You want your dominant foot to be deadly. But you need your weaker foot to at least be useful. In my case, my weaker foot is a little beyond useful. It's actually really good. I'm confident doing moves with my left foot. I'm confident scoring with my left foot. Actually, sometimes I even prefer to use my left foot when I have a goal scoring opportunity. That's a huge advantage when you are in games, because it means that I can go both ways and still be comfortable when doing a move. It means that even if I receive the ball on my left foot in a goal scoring opportunity, I have the confidence to score. It means I become more unpredictable because the defender doesn't know what side to show me on. Does he show me on to my right foot or my left foot? Well, if they're both good, it doesn't really matter, does it? Because I can do damage with both. So this is very important. But again, you need to start doing drills. Now, the first thing I would recommend is start juggling with your weak foot. Not just your weak foot. It's really hard to juggle with one foot. You can do that. But when you're juggling, alternate feet. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So right, left, right, left, right, left. That's one of the easiest ways. And then just whenever you're practicing, include your weak foot as much or more than your dominant foot. I would recommend at first, for those of you out there that have really poor weak feet at the moment, or a weak foot at the moment, I would recommend just practicing as much with your weak foot as your dominant. But once it starts getting a little better, I would start doing it more. So for example, let's say you're practicing some step overs. Let's say you do 10 step overs with your right. Do 15 with your left. Let's say you're taking 20 shots on goal with your right. Do 30 with your left. Let's say you're juggling 100 times with your right. Do 150 with your left, okay? That's for when your left is, when I say left, I mean weak foot. I'm just kind of projecting what my weak foot is into this. But that's the important thing. You need to just start including it. Stop avoiding your weak foot. That is the only way to improve it. There's no magic bullet. There's no secret drill. There's no, some magical spell I can cast that's going to improve your weak foot. It's just going to come down to hard work, consistency, and dedication. For those of you who don't want to hear that, you need to hear it, because when it comes down to it, if you want to get really good at this game, and ask some of the people who have been commenting to me that how much they've improved by working hard. The amount of comments I've gotten from people and messages who have said, dude, I took your advice and I worked hard. That's the important thing. It's not my advice alone that's helping these players improve. It's they made a decision to practice often. One guy commented the other day saying, 2 years ago, I wasn't a good player, and I started playing with a few teams, and I got a little better, but it wasn't until these last few months that I started getting really good, and it's because I started doing individual training. This means he started working on his game by himself, doing individual drills, and he said within a few months, he was unrecognizable, essentially, as a player to what he was formerly. So that's what it takes, guys. You need to be like that guy, dedicated, working hard, practicing on your game daily. So I know we've kind of digressed from the week. I will digress in a lot of these, guys, but it's all important information, I believe. But that's how you improve your weak foot. You just have to start using it. I know it's very simplistic advice, but a lot of the advice I'm going to be giving you is common sense. Someone even commented on a video of mine recently that this video was common sense. Yes, it is. I agree. It is, but the problem is a lot of people don't listen to common sense. They want something that's like this complicated formula or something that's going to magically make them better. But, good old hard and smart work is what's going to make you better. Good old consistency is what's going to make you better. Good old dedication, practice. all of that is what's going to make you a better player. And if you guys actually, for those of you who have seen massive improvements from watching my videos, listening to these podcasts, or from just, even if it's not from my videos and you've just made improvements after you started working hard, let me know in the comments, because I want other players to see it as well. I want other players to read your story and gain some kind of motivation from your progress. So guys, if you want to, this is not mandatory, obviously, nothing, I can't make you do anything. So, but if you want to, feel free to share your soccer story in the comments below and let me know, when was it you started making, how did you start improving your game? Did you listen to advice I gave you? Did you listen to advice another channel gave you? But really, when was it you started to take it seriously, start working hard, and how great were the improvements that you saw? Okay, so we're getting to the end of the podcast. I think that's a good way to end. Not all of you probably made it to the end, but for those of you who did, you know what we do. So we're going to do a hashtag. Let's think of the hashtag we're going to do here. So give me a second and I will think of one. We'll do hashtag hard work, since we just mentioned that. And also make sure you tell me your story to motivate the other players. If you haven't gotten to a point, or you haven't seen a lot of progress yet, don't worry. The reason I want some other players to tell me their progress in the comments and tell you is to give you motivation and to show you that change is very possible and improvement is very possible even in just a few months. I mean, this one player who commented said that he improved so much in a few months. That's honestly, guys, that may seem like a long time, but it's not. It really isn't. If you think how fast a year goes by, you could be a complete, I will say this personally, you could be if you started working today consistently every day on your game, in 2 months, you would be a completely different player at a whole different level than when you were beginning. Okay, so I'm going to leave you with that thought. All right, guys, so make sure you put the hashtag hard work if you made it to the end. That lets me know that you made it to the end, and it makes me more inclined to answer your question. If I didn't get to your question, do not fret. We have a podcast every week, so you can ask me some more in the comments. Even if you have already asked me questions, again, I can answer your question more than once, or I can answer one of your questions more than once. So don't be afraid to keep asking questions if you have them, even if you've already had one answered. Again, I apologize if your question wasn't answered. I can only get to so many. Okay, guys, so make sure you do the hashtag. Make sure you like and share this podcast. If you're new to Simply Soccer and you've made it this far, dude, you're awesome. Or gal, you're awesome. Simply because this is your first time seeing one of my videos or podcasts, and you've watched or listened to about 32 minutes of me rambling on so far. So thank you very much. And definitely consider subscribing, because we do not only these podcasts every week, but we release 3 to 4 other videos every single week to help you improve as a soccer player. So thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you got something out of it. Keep the questions coming. I might do some different things with these podcasts every now and then, to where I do my own questions I want to answer for you. But for now, I'm enjoying answering your questions, so keep them coming and I will keep on answering them. All right, guys, thank you once again, and I'll see you on the next podcast.